Yes, so far as I know, nobody has yet written a history of interdisciplinarity. I think it is very important that somebody write one. I'm even thinking maybe in the future I will write one, because this is one of the great problems in the state of knowledge in our time. And like a historian, I think that in order to situate ourselves in the present, we need to know how we got to this situation, a situation of hyper-specialization. I think we need both. You need specialization because there is too much knowledge for any individual to master. But if one becomes a specialist and doesn't look outside that specialism, it's impossible to see the big picture. So then one is collecting information, but it's impossible to link it with other things. Specialization then has got its price. The attempt to be interdisciplinary also has its price, because it is very difficult to learn more than one discipline. It takes an enormous energy that one needs to master more than the discipline that one first studied at the university. And therefore there's the danger that one tries to do it on the cheap. That is, one is not sufficiently rigorous, one is not sufficiently well informed. There are a few exceptional individuals who manage to teach themselves 3 or 4 disciplines. I call them serial polymaths. Usually they were trained in one, and for some reason they want to leave that and they go into something else. And what's interesting, exciting, maybe unexpected, is that if they take with them into the second discipline the habits they acquired in the first, then they will be able to innovate in a way that people trained in the original discipline can't. I had this friend at the University of Sussex who was a professor of biology, and he had the great advantage of having been trained as an engineer. And this is how he came to make original discoveries. So he was working on the evolution of the flight of birds, but he was looking at the problems of flying from an engineer's point of view. So he saw things that his colleagues in biology had missed. And there are exceptional people like this even alive today, though not as many as there used to be. And so I like to mention Jared Diamond, this scientist in the United States. He began as a physiologist, and then he moved into ornithology because he liked birds. And to study birds, he went to New Guinea. And in New Guinea, then he became conscious of ecology and anthropology, and finally of linguistics, because in New Guinea there are so many languages, and suddenly you realize how many different forms human language can take. And after all that, he's most famous now for having become an amateur historian, writing these books about the rise and collapse of civilizations. I don't think many people can do this, but it's a mercy that it's still possible in the 21st century for some people to learn several disciplines, to borrow from one, to make advances in the other. Everybody says that dialogue is good. The problem is that modern universities are organized to make it much more difficult than it should be. Because a university divided into departments, and these departments are in different buildings, so that there are walls between you and somebody, it turns out, is working on something similar, but they started from a different place. I was asked to be what they called a scientific advisor to a Swedish university, and so I read reports on all the disciplines, and I noticed that in 3 or 4 different parts of the university, people had decided to work on very similar problems, but they didn't know about one another. Only when I saw these reports, I realized that there were some people who really needed to meet, although they were different ends of the campus, and unless they made an appointment, they never would meet. So there is something to fight against. You could found a new university and organize it a different way. And this did happen in the 1960s, and I began my career in such a university, the University of Sussex. And for 10 years it was marvelous, because for 10 years they only appointed people who believed in this interdisciplinarity. But afterwards, people who just wanted a job went there, and you could feel that the original ideals were being diluted. Even there were people who were against them being appointed to the university. I think today it's a very messy situation. I call it a situation of coexistence, because many centres for interdisciplinary studies have been founded, but they're founded in universities which have traditional departments. So one part of the university is trying to be interdisciplinary, another part of the university is maintaining the traditions of disciplines. This may not be a bad idea on one condition, that people in these two groups talk to one another. But the problem, as I see it, is that this usually doesn't happen. So you have people, it's like Belgium, you know, which is Belgium is two countries pretending to be one country. The people who speak Flemish have as little contact as possible with the people who speak French, but they share the country. And in the university, the disciplinary people share the ground with the interdisciplinary people, but they don't talk, they don't meet. Unfortunately, I don't know much about the situation in Latin American universities. Just a little bit about Brazil and not really about the other countries. Of course, in Europe and the United States, Latin American studies was created as an interdisciplinary project. So it's no good simply arriving there as a historian wishing to talk to the people in the other disciplines. You have somehow to identify the people in sociology or art history who want to talk to you. And you're only there for a year. By the time you've discovered who they are, sometimes it's time to leave. So there is a problem. But you know better than I do how serious a problem it is here.